Monday, June 5th, and this is Geeknights. Tonight, we begin our long-running series on how computers work from the very bottom to the very top.
Let's do this.
Well, as is par for the course, we had another crazy weekend.
Yay.
We went to Philly Wizard World, which we'll have our full coverage of on Wednesday.
I think it's actually called Wizard World Philly.
Whatever. It was a freaking Comic-Con.
That's what it was.
And I got my thoughts on that.
We also went to the beach.
Oh yeah, Jersey Shore, where our friend Scott Johnson has his crazy awesome new beach house.
Do you like to sit on the beach?
Oh, I do.
Do you like to... other
crab.
euphemism for bitch?
Yeah. But it was a good time, because ever since Gojo, moved away from RIT, we don't see him as often as we like to, so...
Yeah, way down in that Philadelphia, and we're up here in that New York.
Yeah.
It's not... It should be easier to get between the two, but we live just so slightly upstate in New York that it's hard for us to get to I-95, which is pretty much the only road from New York to Philadelphia. My dad's got it smart. He goes to Philadelphia all the time with the airplanes.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
I guess we'll just have to make him come out and visit us.
I think that's what we'll have to do.
Yeah.
So, of course, he has that house on the beach, which we can't make the house on the beach visit us.
Yeah.
If we found a way to teleport the bitch here, I'd do it in a second, but we can't.
Though, actually, the only reason I brought up the Jersey Shore is that we had a moment of geekery. Now, the three
Many
of us...
moments of geekery.
Well, one particular moment. Myself, Scott, and Scott are walking down the boardwalk, and suddenly we all stop.
Oh, you can tell that one. That's good.
Yeah, that one. Like, we all stop, and we all turn to the left, and we all look at each other like, you hear that? Yeah, I hear that. And we start looking around. Like, we don't even say it.
Like, we didn't even say anything, but we all knew, and we just stopped, kind of turned, and started walking into this. Now, on the shore in Jersey, in Wildwood, on the boardwalk, there's all these stores that sell shit.
Like Drek, the Drekest of Drek.
The schlockiest of crap. We're talking cheap-ass T-shirts with stupid sayings on them, and girly, cheap bathing suits, and, towels that say stuff like beach inspector or bikini inspector, ha ha ha. Stupid shit like that. Plastic shovels for $1.
Yep.
This is just one of those stores. It was selling mostly girly shit.
Now, we all walk in, and then we hear it again, and we confirm it, and we know now that over the radio is playing Ayumi Hamasaki.
Now, that is the last thing you're going to hear in a place that is pretty much McDonald's and MTV. Well, there are no chains. I mean, not a lot of chains in Wildwood. There's very few, but everything there is pop culture crap. There's nothing that is nerdy or whatever.
Now, bear in mind that this was also a very girly store. In fact, there was a gaggle of shore girls kind of hanging around inside of it in a big group.
Mm-hmm.
And the store guy looks at us, and everyone looks at us because we walk into the store with our ears cocked, kind of looking around. We find an employee. We walk over to him. We kind of surround him, and he's like, and then we ask, so who's the Ayumi Hamasaki fan?
Yep.
And he's like, what?
Apparently, most people who work on the boardwalk, in fact, a lot of the people who work in the United States in the summer at summer camps, amusement parks, boardwalks, etc., are from Europe and other parts around the world.
Yeah, so anyone complaining about, Mexican immigrants stealing your jobs,
well, they're only really stealing these jobs from high school and college kids in the U.S. who want to work minimum wage all day long. And the thing is, they come over here to work at a summer camp or something. They get room and board, somewhere for real cheap. They get paid minimum wage. They get a visa, and they get to work here the whole summer at some crap-ass job. And in return, they get like a week or two of actual vacation in the U.S. where they go around and see stuff. Or maybe on the weekends they go and see stuff. And
I actually wouldn't mind doing something like that over in Europe.
You see, it's a lot harder for us to do it elsewhere.
Yeah.
There's like a whole big program. It's very easy for them to come here and do it. But for us to do it elsewhere is not as easy, but it's not so hard.
This guy was obviously very into, Euro, techno.
He was definitely a European dude, and he just, had a friend who downloaded some cool music on the internet.
Some sort of techno-Euro mix compilation, which we're pretty sure was the Ayumi Euro mix compilation.
Yes, there are CDs called A-Euro, Y-U-R-O mix, and I think there's like at least 4 of these things. So they take Ayumi Hamasaki songs and Eurobeatize them. and they make a big mega mix CD, and there's like a whole bunch of these things they put out.
And they're good. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Ayumi
Yeah,
Hamasaki.
I have a few of them.
Despite the fact that she is like the idol, like crazy. Oh, I'm
she's the
pop
Madonna
culture.
of Japan.
Yeah.
Yet she doesn't suck. But you know what? I'm convinced if I knew what the lyrics meant, I would think they were stupid.
Honestly, you know what? I do know what the lyrics mean to a couple of the songs because I liked them a lot and I looked it up a while ago. And at least the songs I looked at were actually good songs of their own merit.
Yeah, but whatever. Forget that.
I haven't looked at
the point
all
is
of
that
them.
there was a Yumi Hamasaki on in a place that it shouldn't be,
And I guess
or it was unexpected for it to be. It should be everywhere.
Our geekdar is so highly tuned that we immediately picked up on it and sought it out.
Well, when a place is so devoid of geekery, then anything geeky at all. I mean, like if a pixelated Mario, like if a McDonald's Mario toy was sitting in the sand, we'd be like, dee 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 dee. But when there's a strong geekery at a convention, then only the awesome geekeries really stand out, and we gravitate towards them.
Other than that, we played some arcade games as usual. I learned that I still have my DDR skills quite strongly.
Yeah, my DDR skills are fading slightly. I got to start playing that.
Yes, you do.
Some more. But they're not fading too much. I can still do pretty much any medium normal songs, and I could still do some great Maniac songs, but not the really hard ones, just the normal ones.
Yeah, we showed up some punk kids who have grown up in the current generation.
You forgot
of
to play
DDR.
air hockey.
Yeah.
And you didn't want to play the hockey with the sticks on the whatever.
Because I was in line for DDR.
Yeah, I like the hockey. And we did the only new good game that was at the shore, because there are other new good arcade games that just didn't have them, was House of the Dead 4, where you get an Uzi. And you can also throw grenades, and you can shake the Uzi to get zombies off of you.
It looks pretty good.
Yeah, it's definitely more fun than the original House of the Dead, where you just had the stupid pistol that was weak and had no feedback or anything. The shotgun one was good. That was number 3, I think. But this one is definitely fun. I'll probably beat it when we go down there again. There are also some good pinballs.
So in actual news, the Pirate Bay, it's back.
Yep.
It took them, a few days to get themselves back on their feet despite the volley from the Hollywood
I think they're
MPAA
back
types.
up with a server in Russia, Ukraine, Holland, and somewhere else. I don't know.
Now, normally what's happened in the past is whenever a site like this was taken down, a new site would spring up somewhere else. And it was always kind of this whack-a-mole game for the MPAA. This one didn't work that way. The MPAA hit this mole, and it just sat there. The mole didn't move.
And as soon as they picked up the mallet, it popped right back up.
I consider this a victory for the free world.
We're going to kick some ass, yeah? Finally, somebody says, we will not take your shit. Of course, they say they will not take your shit because they are from the Sweden.
Now, I would submit that anyone out there who hasn't been to the Pirates Bay before, go there. And even if you've been there and you use it often, go there and look at it, because they changed their site graphic a little bit to commemorate the fact that once again they kicked Hollywood's ass.
Yeah, right now they're having some problems with the database, which is bound to happen when you move a site like that to 4 countries from 1, and from a giant data center to who knows what. But I'm sure it'll be back up real soon.
Yeah.
That's a technical problem. Who cares? All right, so I got a news. It's a little bit complicated, so I got to explain it.
Yeah, explain away.
There's a company called Vonage. You may or may not know of this company. They sell VoIP. Now, you might be like, hey, Skype is VoIP and it's free. Well, now you see the problem with this company. Basically, if you're the kind of person who sets up an asterisk server, you can pay Vonage for minutes. Now, there are also a bunch of other companies that will sell you minutes, VoIP minutes. Lots of them. Shit tons of them. Vonage isn't the only one. But Vonage is probably the biggest one, the one that people know, the trusted name. Most of the other ones are these companies you never heard of, even though they're still legitimate. So Vonage, you could also, you know how we have Optimum Online, we can also get Optimum Cable and Optimum Voice, where our cable company will sell us VoIP. If you want, you can pay Vonage and get a little VoIP phones and plug them into your, internet router and talk on the phone. And it'll give you a phone number and everything. So this company, Vonage, had an IPO.
Initial public offering.
Yes, that means we are not on the stock market, but now we are. And it's the IPO is where you give everyone a chance to buy your stock at the beginning. You say, this is the beginning.
Yep, companies all do it different ways. I mean, Google made a lot of press for doing it in a kind of funny, special way.
Yep. Which had mixed results. But the point is, Vonage had a relatively normal IPO, except for one little catch. They said to their customers that they were going to give the customers of Vonage a chance to get in on the IPO. Okay, that's cool. That's like if Google came to all the Gmail users and said, hey, we're going to let you into the IPO first. Now, the way they did this is they said, hey, customers of Vonage, no matter what, you guys can buy Vonage shares at $17 a share. So even if the IPO makes the stock start jumping up crazily, if you want to and you fill out this form, for being a Vonage customer, you can buy as many shares as you want, $17 a share. I don't know if it's as many shares as you want, but, it's a certain number of shares you could buy, $17 a share. Now, here's what happened. The assumption by the Vonage customers was, oh, this is a great deal because the stock will jump right away. I'll only pay $17 and then I'll sell it and I'll make money. And it'll help out Vonage and it'll help out me. It's a great deal. Vonage's stock didn't go up. It went down to $12 a share.
Yeah.
So the customers, what happened, because they agreed to buy X shares at $17 a share, ended up just losing money. And even though they still have to pay the $17 a share, they can't pay the $12 a share that they should pay. They had to pay the $17 because that's what they agreed to. So they went to the SEC, the Security Exchange Commission, and said, and the SEC's like, we're going to do something about this.
Yeah.
So
Vonage might be in some deep doo-doo.
Deep doo-doos. So I think this is the official end of IPOs being stupid, crazy, profitable, stocks go up crazily thing.
Yeah, because it seems like it's the perception among business people these days, not like high up business people, but people who are running a small business or a company, that IPOing is a way to make a whole bunch of money with absolutely no consequences. That seems to be the way they treat IPOs nowadays.
At least the high-tech IPOs seem to be where they start the stock price real low, and then everyone buys it because it's a crazy high-tech company, and it goes way up. And the thing is Vonage isn't profitable and had no plan to be profitable, and people didn't go up. This is telling everyone, we don't care how high-tech or fancy you are. If you're not going to be profitable, you're not going to get invested in.
That's a good change. I mean, for any of you who actually remember the dot-com bust, a big part of that was that people who didn't understand technology would hear about a high-tech company and just pump money into it, assuming that high-tech always means good. I guess now people are actually looking at what a company does. Do they do anything? There were a lot of companies in the dot-com boom.
Money?
Not only did they not make money, but they didn't do anything. There were companies that, I shit you not, did nothing. Never made a product, never did anything but advertise themselves.
Infinium Labs. 3D Realms.
What are you talking about? I'm going to buy a Phantom console.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you know what? When it comes out, I'll buy it.
Okay. Well, it's going to come out tomorrow. I'm going to laugh as Rim shells out like $800 for this nothing.
No, you know what I'll do at that point?
What?
Break my word and not buy it.
You only get 3. You're going to waste one on that?
We'll see. I don't think I'm going to have to waste one.
All right.
Plus, I didn't say exactly when I'd buy it. I could buy it, on my deathbed.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Got to be tricky with that sort of thing.
But what if there aren't any left what if they're all destroyed?
As long as I tried to buy one, that's good enough.
That doesn't count.
If you give your word to someone that you'll do something and you fail to do it, but you try your best.
I'm going to try my best to buy this car, a Ferrari right now. I can't afford one in the end. I tried my best.
At least you tried. So things of the day, in keeping with my list of old school things of the day.
Incredibly old school.
Partly because we haven't found anything particularly new and exciting on the internet recently. This is something we discovered at RIT quite some time ago, and it was very popular and very cool. And it actually got a lot of people into Daft Punk who otherwise had never heard of them.
If you don't know, Daft Punk is awesome. They're two French guys.
You know what?
Who wear masks, so you don't know what they look like. So if you saw them on the street, you wouldn't know. And they make awesome technos.
If you've never heard of Daft Punk, and this is the first time you've ever heard anything, I want you to go out, whether you like anime or not, and buy this DVD called Interstellar 555.
The animation is by Leiji Matsumoto, the guy who makes Galaxy Express and all that stuff. And it's basically this giant music video of Daft Punk.
And just imagine an entire album, and then someone made a movie that is perfectly synced to the album entirely.
And there's no talking.
It's really, really cool. And if you were one of those people who, I don't like anime, forget that it's anime. Think of it as something cool and watch it.
It's real. I think Daft Punk's actual music videos for that album, what they did is they just cut up this movie and took the piece out that had the song and said that was the the music video.
But this is a little flash that someone made, and it's very simple, like very simple, but for some reason it works really well with the song. More than ever, hour after our work is never over.
Down,
down, down, down, down. And it's to what? River City Ransom, Narc,
Barbie,
and A Boy and His Blob.
The Boy and His Blob.
Yeah, I love the little dance the boy does.
Yep. All right, so my thing of the day is Sega Fantasy VI.
Now, I'll warn you, Scott's thing, if you're not a video game fan of the older school persuasion, as in you know about, NES and future consoles, you're not going to find this funny.
If you've never played Final Fantasy VI and beaten it, you won't understand a lot of the jokes. But basically, this thing, they took the ending of Final Fantasy VI and they replaced all the characters with sprites of video game consoles.
Every console you can imagine.
There's the consoles that were out at the time when they made this.
Well, yeah,
so you're not going to see any Wiis or anything. And the plot is awesome because it matches the history of the consoles as well as matching the characters in Final Fantasy VI and the plot of Final Fantasy VI. And it's hilarious.
Unless you're not old school, and then it's just dumb.
It's like reading Penny Arcade. If you understand it, it's great. If you're grandma and you're not old grandma hardcore and you're just normal grandma, you won't get it.
Though
you might even think it's offensive and stupid.
At least Penny Arcade always has the gaming joke, but there's always the puerile joke there along with it.
I also want to point out how the bad guy in Sega Fantasy VI is PSP. That's all I got to say.
All right. So we have been talking a long time about how we wanted to do a series, like a long series, on how computers work.
Yep. And we've delayed it for many a moon.
For various reasons, ranging from being tired to having news to talk about.
So this series, I don't know if we're going to do it every Monday until it's done. But
probably not.
We're probably going to do it a whole lot of Mondays from here on out. And we might make a separate feed for it in case someone wants to listen to just this or something like that. Who knows? Not right now. But we're going to tell you, basically, I said basically 3 times today.
All right.
We are going to give you our, zillions of dollars in RIT education for free.
Yep, we're going to start with the basics of computers and what they are and how they work to the very top, to here is how, this operating system does this.
Theoretically, if you listen to our podcast and all of these episodes, you will know just as much about how a computer works as we do. Granted,
that will take you a long time because we are going to do this over a long period of time.
Also, we are going to use many simplifications, abstractions, and analogies so that even the dumbest person can understand. Even a dumb person. Not the dumbest person probably won't understand no matter what. But
the dumbest person hasn't figured out how to download Geeknights.
Yeah, the dumbest person probably has some sort of horrible learning disorder and won't be able to learn anyway.
Either that or he's in the White House where you really can't get a good internet connection.
Yeah,
yeah, I had to throw some sort of dig in there.
Or a learning disorder in the White House.
Yeah.
So If you, at any time, have a question about anything we say,
Or
you're smarter than us and you want to correct us on something stupid we said, you got to use the email and the forums, and we'll clear that up.
yeah, either email us, send us an email, an audio email, call that number we used to pimp, do something.
Yeah, Geeknights at frontrowcrew.com.
Now, we love audio feedback, but it seems like a lot of you are, for whatever reason, afraid of sending us audio of your voice.
Mhm.
So if you want to ask a question but you don't want to record something, just email us and we'll read it on the air and do it.
Yep.
And if we don't answer your question or we ignore it, that just means we're waiting until we do the show on that specifically.
Or you said something incredibly stupid.
No, if you said something incredibly stupid, we'll be all on about that.
We still haven't received a hate mail.
Never.
I'm waiting.
The closest thing to a hate mail we've gotten is mail in foreign languages where I wasn't sure what it said.
Spam.
Yeah, it was spam. It was Hispanic spam for some Hispanic album.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell that was.
Yeah, I think they were trying to get us to shell it.
Forget that. I don't know why if they were trying to get us to shill something, why do they think we speak Spanish? I don't get.
Well, I do find it interesting, and I say this a lot, how many of our listeners are overseas and in foreign countries other than the United States.
Yeah, but they understand English. If you don't understand the English language, you can't listen to us.
Maybe they just assume we're bilingual.
Maybe they're trying to learn English.
Nah.
I can actually kind of read a Spanish newspaper, kind of.
Yeah, I can
Slowly.
do almost the same in French.
Yep.
Like I can read, like I remember I looked up some Yamakasi site and I could kind of follow along and I could figure out the gist of it. But if someone's speaking French to me, it's like, whoa there.
All right, so let's start talking about how a computer works. But first, you must talk about what a computer is.
So then, what is a computer? I mean, on a fundamental level, it doesn't do very much. It just does a lot of very little, very quickly.
A computer needs 3 things. Number 1, the input. Input can be almost anything. Input could be a keyboard or a mouse or a touchscreen.
Or a voice.
Or a photo sensor or a microphone.
Or a punch card.
Or a big red button or a retina scan.
Or a photocell.
Or a fingerprint scan. Or a scanner. Or it could be anything that takes information and gathers it and sends it down a wire. That's input. Step 2, the processing.
It is deterministic. Computers aren't magic things. They are deterministic, and if an input comes in, you can predict the output.
With the same computer, with the same program, is given the same input, it will do the same thing every time unless the computer is broken. So the processing takes the input, and based on the computer, because different computers do different things, will do some processing on the input. It will do something. So maybe it's a calculator, and it will take the inputs of what buttons you pushed and process those inputs to create the third thing, the output, which could be the monitor, the speakers, the electric zapper that gives you a shock for being stupid, the force feedback on the steering wheel, who knows. The little LCD screen on the calculator is the output.
But that's all a computer does. They take input, they process it in some deterministic, reliable, predictable way, and then they output something.
Yep. That's the simplest computer in the universe. Well, here's the thing. You have to there's a line between, and a computer doesn't have to be electronic. You could have a mechanical computer. Any device which takes input, processes it, and makes output is a computer.
And there were, in fact, prototypical and small mechanical computers a long time ago.
The first computers are mechanical. Pascal and Babbage made mechanical wooden / whatever adding machines. And you can go onto Wikipedia and read about Blaise Pascal and, I don't know Babbage's other name, but
yeah.
Babbage. There probably isn't another Babbage to read about.
Now, these computers, I mean, I'm actually reading a sci-fi about that right now, but computers that are mechanical are no different than the computers that are electrical, other than the way they function. And it's really only a matter of the fact that mechanical computers were very large, very slow, and very unreliable and expensive.
Yep. In the future, what the scientists are working on, it's sort of like a cold fusion where it might not work, but they're trying anyway, is quantum computers that aren't even electronic. They're quantum. So the processing is all done by quantum physics. Crazy bullshit.
The problem with that,
not bullshit, but crazy.
the problem with those computers is that we don't actually understand quantum physics.
No, we don't.
I mean,
no one does.
We know a lot about it. We can predict quantum physics. We know that if we do X, Y happens, and it happens reliable.
But we don't know the in-between.
Yeah, and we don't know why, and every now and then it doesn't work.
That's
and
the problem with
when
you make a computer, you need to know the whole in-between. That's the thing about computers.
Because really, I can't stress this enough, and I know I've said it a bunch of times, but computers are deterministic. They are exact. For any given input, the output will always be the same.
If I have a functioning calculator that is correctly programmed and I press 1 + 1 =, it'll say 2. If I do it again, it'll say 2. No matter how many times they do it, as long as the calculator isn't broken, it'll say 2.
Yep, I was about to say, unless it's a penny 1.
That's right.
That's the story we can tell when we get to that point.
As long as it isn't broken, it'll say 2. Okay. So, when people ask you how a computer works, the common answer is zeros and ones, zeros and ones. Now, who out there thinks there are little zeros and little ones floating around inside a computer? Anybody? Anybody? Okay, well, obviously you might be smart enough to have said no.
You know what? If anyone answered us right now,
if anyone said yes, go home.
If anyone said no, go home, because you just answered a one-way broadcast.
Aha. Seriously, there are not little zeros and ones floating around inside your computer.
In fact, not only that, but the whole idea of a 0 and 1 is just an abstraction.
Yep.
It's an ideal. It's something that doesn't actually exist.
Does not really exist. It's just an idea.
They're arbitrary.
Yep. What is in the computer? Well, electricity, dumbass. That's what's in there. Electricity.
A whole bunch of silicon and all that stuff.
That's just ways for the electricity to move around.
There's a couple every now and then. There's some computers have mechanical things in them.
That's true. A hard drive has like a motor to spin the disks around.
Old computers had relays.
Yep. Some parts of the computer are magnetic, which is kind of electricity.
What? I'm gonna let that one slide.
Yeah, I'm just being silly.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, we should probably go a little bit to ones and zeros. Why do we use ones and zeros? Why are 1 and 0 special?
Yep.
Because that is the simplest logic that exists.
Mm-hmm.
There is either true or false, 1 or 0, yes or no. Those all mean the same two things. It is a perfect dichotomy between yes and no with no middle ground.
Yep. Now, there are computers that have 0, 1, and 2, 0, 1, 2, and 3, but we're not going to teach you about those computers because they're crazy and no one uses them.
Yes,
well, some people use them.
Yeah, actually, the Russians did a lot of research in that regard. I used to know a lot about it because I was really curious about it until I learned that it's mostly complicated and difficult.
Okay, now, we're going to be talking mostly about your computer, not computers you're never going to use.
Your computer is basically sitting there millions and millions of times per second going, yes, no, yes, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, 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 yes, no, yes, no.
In fact, there are like millions of yeses and nos in a big mix all at once, and then all at once again, and all at once again. Now, what is the 0 and the 1? What's the how do you get from the electricity to the 0 and a 1? Well,
that's entirely arbitrary based on whatever you wanted to do as an engineer making a computer.
That's correct. But in terms of normal computing, let's say you have a wire. It's just a wire. And it's just sitting there. At 0. No electricity on the wire. Now, you get some battery going on. And there's some electricity on the wire. That's a 1 coming out the end of that wire.
Now, at this point, you have to decide what's the line between 0 and 1. I mean, what if there's a little bit of static electricity going down? Does that count as a 1? Because it's either 1 or 0 at any given time.
What if there's like a little bit of electricity on the wire? Or what if there's too much electricity on the wire? Whoa.
So a nice, real simple way, because this is basically how most logic works, is that they'll set a voltage, like say 3 volts or 9 volts.
I think it's 5 is the basically what people go on these days.
Yeah, though networking and telephony.
Yeah.
But they'll say like if the voltage is 3 or greater, then it is a 1. If the voltage, well, we're not going to talk about polarity. If it's greater than 3, it's a 1. If it's less than 3, it's a 0.
Yep. And sometimes there'll be a buffer zone in the middle. And sometimes there'll be all kinds of other crazy stuff. But all you have to know is that you have a wire, and if there's electricity coming down the wire at a certain voltage, that's a 1. And if there's no electricity, that's a 0.
And the electricity, I mean, it's an analog wave going down the wire. So it can be all over the place. and these thresholds convert that into ones and zeros, and they can be done perfectly. Because it's all logic at that point. Once you say, I'm going to define this as a 1, that's a 1. That is a mathematical 1 because you defined it.
Yep. I think most computers today work on 5 volts. Someone tell me if I'm wrong. It's 5 volts, is 1, and 0 volts is 0.
Yeah, negative 5 volts.
Yes.
Because
we are not going to give you a lesson on physics and electronics and all that business.
Well, actually, I will, but only when I talk about networking. Because I actually know a lot about that.
Yeah, but this is how a computer works, not how we're going to talk about transistors. We're not going to talk about resistors and capacitors and diodes and all that business. Okay. So now you have a wire with a 1 coming out of it. How do you make this compute? Well, the magic of the transistor. Da, da, da.
Well, even before the transistor, we had
vacuum
tubes. And before that, we had digital logic.
Yep. Well, the vacuum tube and the transistor perform the same function. The transistor is just much, much smaller and much, much more efficient than the vacuum tube. The vacuum tube is big, and real dangerous.
Now, real simply, all a transistor does is let you look. A signal will come in, and as a result, the output will change.
Yep.
That's in the simplest terms. That's what a transistor does for you.
Mm-hmm.
So, say the picture has you have 3 prongs coming out of a little thingy, and you've got a circuit that's connected to 2 of those, and then another wire connected to the 3rd one. And then when you put a signal to the 3rd wire, it lets something go through the other 2.
Mm-hmm. So here's an example that probably should make sense with an analogy and all that. All right. You have a light bulb. You have a battery. And you have a transistor. Oh, you have 2 batteries. 2 batteries, a light bulb, transistor.
Fanatical devotion to the Pope.
And some wires. There's a wire from one battery to input prong 1. Is a wire from the output prong.
I don't know how well this is going to work without a picture.
Yeah, we really need a picture.
Maybe we should do some. We're not going to do a video cast on this.
No, we're not. Okay, so there's electricity going in one prong, and electricity coming from that prong goes through the transistor and out the 3rd prong to the light bulb. And then you make a circuit all the way around so that the light bulb actually lights up. The middle prong is the control prong. So if the middle prong is off, the light bulb goes off because the transistor won't let the electricity go through the transistor from the battery to the light bulb. If you turn the middle prong on, the control prong on, then it allows the electricity to go through to the light bulb and the light bulb turns on. So if there's a 0 on the control prong, no light bulb, 0. A 1 on the control prong, light bulb goes on, it's a 1.
Now, all your computer is billions and billions and billions of those all turning lights on and off, on and off, on and off all over the place, and those lights turn on other lights that turn on other lights in this cascading chain that collapses into an answer for every given input.
Yep. Now, imagine this. You have a room with a light bulb, and there's one switch on the wall. Off is 0, on is 1. Now, let's say you have 2 switches, and you have 2 light bulbs. 0, 1, 0, 1.
Now, at this point, if you didn't pay attention in high school math and you don't know about non-10 base numbers, real briefly, base 10, the numbers we use, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, that's base 10. It's in sets of 10. That's the numbering system humans use for a variety of reasons.
Because there are 10 digits in base 10.
And because we have 10 fingers,
Yep.
There's a lot of reasons why humans ended up using base 10. And there were some cultures that used other bases.
Mm-hmm.
They mostly disappeared.
There is also base 8, which is octal, in which the only digits you have at your disposal are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
And the one you'll see most often in computing is hexadecimal, base 16.
You have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, A, B, C, D, E, F at your disposal. 16 digits.
Now, the only reason hex is used is really, octal isn't used so much anymore, but hex is a convenient way of writing binary.
Binary is base 2. You have 2 digits, 0 and 1.
So counting in binary goes 0, 1, 10, 11, 100, 101, 110, 111, 1,000.
And that's the same as counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Now, obviously, you need a lot of bits, a lot of digits to write a large number in binary.
This is all just different ways of writing numbers. You know, if you want to write the number 16, you write 1, 6. If you want to write the number 16 in hexadecimal, you write F. It's the same. F just is 16. It's a different way of writing a number. That's all it is. So writing 7 or in binary is what? Let's see. See why you need hex? Because I already have to think.
It's 0, 1, 1, 1.
There you go.
Because, now I have a little chart, because way back when I was a freshman at RIT.
The hex to binary chart?
Yeah, like my first computer class at RIT, like the first ever when I learned about a computer from anyone who actually knew what they were talking about. And we learned all about, binary logic and all that, which was fairly simple, and I knew some of it already. But my first programming project was we had to write all these number-based converters and logic converters and all these things in Visual Basic, but we weren't allowed to use any of the functions. So we had to do it all manually by hand. So I made a little chart of binary, hexadecimal, octal and stuck it on my monitor.
That's a good one.
It's still stuck there to this day because I never bothered to get rid of it.
Now, the reason we use hex, because it's so easy, is because 4 binary digits is a hex digit. Think about it. 4 binary digits. That means 4 zeros and ones. So that's every number from 0000 to 1111. Well, 1111 is 16. That means
1111 is 15, Scott.
Right, 15. That doesn't matter. It's the 16th digit. Because 0 is in there. 0000.
Yeah, here's another nice aside for all of you non-computer types. You might notice that a lot of, because that's why I didn't correct Scott earlier when he said F is 16.
Yep.
A lot of computer people, especially computer programmers more so than IT people, when they tell you a number relating computers, they might always be one off from you. Because for various reasons, a lot of computer people start counting with 0.
You always start counting with 0.
Yeah, but normal people don't do that in the real world in their normal life.
No, they don't. I was trying to make it stupid, but
yeah.
I guess we'll make it a little less stupid.
I just be wary of that. Because the more you deal with computers, especially if you start writing code, that's where it'll really appear. Just remember that 0 is the first number.
Yep, 0 is 1. No.
But it's not 1, because it means 0, but it's also just a number.
Yeah, it's the first number is 0. So, 1111 is 15. F is 15. 0000 is 0. 0 is 0. So with 4 binary digits, 4 zeros and ones, you can do every single hex digit, 0 through F. So if you take any binary number, or just a series of zeros and ones, break it up into groups of 4, you can easily convert it into hex, and vice versa. That's why computer programmers and people always write things in hex, because to write it in binary would be incredibly long, and writing in hex is 4 times shorter.
Now, you might be wondering at this point, all right, so I have my light bulb switch, and that works. Now I have my 2 light bulb switches, that works.
And you have your numbers.
How do I do things with that? Because, the switches, it's just binary numbers. So say you want to add 2 binary numbers, or subtract 2, or do something to the binary numbers to get some answer out. It seems like it'd be really complicated to make a different combination of switches for every possible input.
Well, you don't have to.
Yep, the fact that it turns out that there is a very small set of logical operators in binary that together can be used to make any logical situation you can describe in binary.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we're going to talk about them in great detail tonight.
Probably not.
But very briefly, if you want to get ahead of us, AND, NAND, OR, XOR, NOT.
You can also combine them to be like not XOR or NOR.
And if you keep combining them, you get very complex circuits that can do things like addition and subtraction and primary factorization.
Yep. Now, for are we going to finish it off right here?
I think we should wrap it up a little bit. I don't want to go too long the first time because I'd really like to get some feedback from all our listeners on
If they understood it.
Yeah, is the pace okay? Should we speed up? Should we slow down? Is that too much for one day?
All right, so here's the final example I want you to put in your minds.
And then I'm going to have a mini trivia question.
Ooh, a trivia question.
Just a little mini one to kind of keep people interested.
Okay. Imagine this in your minds. There are 4 light bulbs. Doo-doo. No, forget the 4 light bulbs. There's a calculator screen, right? And the calculator screen has 4 wires going into it, right? And what the calculator screen will do is if all ones come into it on each of the 4 wires, if there's electricity on all 4 wires, then the letter F will appear on the calculator screen. You see where I'm going? And if there's no electricity on none of the wires, then the number 0 will go there. Now, the 4 wires aren't just going to 4 switches, so you can make any number you want appear. They're going into 2 separate sets of switches. And you set one set of switches to be one number, and the other set of switches to be another number. And then there's a bunch of those ands and nands and stuff in between that we talked about. And it adds the first number you put together and the second number you put together, and the result shows up on the screen.
Now, note that there's only 4 wires. Then you're limited to F. It's the highest number you can reach.
Yep.
So if you try to add 7 and A...
Nope, not going to work.
And depending on how, if you just have the circuit there, it'll work and it'll give you an answer, but it'll give you the wrong answer. Because it's like, imagine if you were doing an addition, right? You're adding a bunch of numbers together. And say you only have 8 spaces on your little piece of paper for the answer, but the answer uses 9 digits. You just chop off the one on the end, and now your answer's totally wrong.
Yeah, the idea is you don't put more input. You don't give the user enough input to overflow.
Yeah, and on a hardware level, you know that, all right, I have X wires, so I can't ever do anything that needs more than X wires.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you can do fancy things like, well, say I have 2 sets of X wires or 4 sets of X wires. I'll use 2 of those sets. Now I can store twice as much. But now I'm using 2 of my sets.
Yeah, so it would probably be there are 4 wires going into the display, but there are 3 wires on the left and 3 wires on the right. So if you turn them all on, it would be 7 and 7, which is 14. If you turned one side off, it would be 7.
So I hope this has enlightened any people a little bit. We really want to get a lot of feedback, and we'll try to fine-tune this series as we go on, since this is the inaugural episode.
Yeah, next time we'll probably talk about the actual gates.
Yeah, digital logic.
And then we'll probably make a big jump over a bunch of really complicated stuff that's in between, but we'll try to abstract it so you can make the connection all the way up to where the assembly programming is, which is what you got to jump to.
Plus, we can always go back once we've gone over larger, broader ideas and fill in very specific details, especially if people are curious about them.
Yep.
Now, my trivia, and this is, I think every time we do this, I'll have a trivia that's basically going to be answered in the next episode, regardless of whether any of you figure it out.
Are you going to give a prize?
No prize. This is
Okay.
just for your own. This is the kind of thing where if you go out and find the answer, you'll be ahead of the game and you'll have a better idea of what we're talking about on the next one.
Okay.
Now, I mentioned all those gates, and, or, XOR, NAND, and NOT.
Oh, this is a good one. I know what you're going to ask.
I think you do know what I'm going to ask. Now, each one of them can be made with or without a transistor. You can make all of those gates with just wires and switches. You can also make them with transistors. Now, of all of them, one of them is electrically the simplest to make and the most versatile, and it is the one that you can, with this logical operator, make by combinations of certain numbers of this operator any other one of the operators. Now, most chips that people buy, especially hobbies, at Radio Shack, you buy like a little IC chip that you stick in a board and fiddle with.
Yeah, it's one of those black rectangles with all little bits coming out of it. On the sides, it looks like a little bug. Those actually have a shit ton of gates in them.
Yep. Now, the thing is, most of those chips only include one gate. And in fact, most simple chips out in the world are comprised entirely of one and only one kind of gate. And they combine that one kind of gate to make all the different gates because it's easier electronically to do that. So my question is, what is that universal gate that everyone uses? Which one? And, NAND, NOT, XOR, OR?
Yep, they're...
Or.
Only the simplest electronics that are out there use, all the different kinds of gates. All the complex electronics in the world use one gate. Only one gate.
Because you have so many gates at that point, it's more efficient. Now, we may be wrong about some of the crazy new processors,
Mm-hmm.
because people do some interesting things with electricity nowadays.
Yeah, they do.
These are things you don't need to care about.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that is my question, and really, give us some feedback on this, because we'll try to go in whatever direction you guys want and cater to whatever you want to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe RIT will sue us for giving it away for free.
Uh-huh.
And that was Geek Nights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for our opening theme.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com. If you like our podcasts, you'll love our forums. Make sure you visit them. You can send your email feedback to geeknights@gmail.com. And if you want, you can leave us a voicemail at 206-333-1537.
Geek Nights airs every weeknight, Monday through Thursday.
Geeknights is recorded with absolutely no studio and no audience. But unlike those other talk shows, it's actually recorded at night.